that was my life story growing up. Of course, there was also a lot of other traumatic incidents in my life. I was sexually abused by three different men when I grew up, and that also contributed, I think, to a lot of my woundedness and a lot of the hatred that I had towards men. So when I was about 5 years old, somebody abused me, but random events. My mom would send me to go and borrow tea from one of our neighbors, and there was an older boy that abused me. Some of our family friends, there was also an older boy that abused me, and when I was 10 years old, our neighbor sexually abused me. Obviously, that also caused a lot of hurt and woundedness in my life. Anyone that ever goes through sexual abuse, it's horrible. One day you feel like beautiful and clean and holy and perfect, and then when that happens afterwards, you feel so wounded, and so filthy and so unworthy. I know one guy, he teaches about that. He says he's a seer prophet, so he can see into the spirit, and he says that whenever women goes through sexual abuse, he can literally see that in the spirit, because God created women with crowns on their head, crowns of beauty on their head, and when that kind of abuse happens, your crown sort of gets stripped off your head. So that's horrible. I mean, that's just horrible. So that's one of the things that impacted my life a lot. And obviously, it contributed to all the hate that I felt towards men. I mean, I already hated my father, and my grandfather was an alcoholic, so he wasn't a good role model, and all the uncles and stuff that I had also struggled a lot with anger and alcohol. So I had no sound male role model growing up. So and that also contributed to me hating men. But then and also when I was in high school, I started having a lot of nightmares, and I started spiritually. I was just messed up. I started seeing demons, and I had so much fear and anxiety. I remember my parents took me to psychologists, but obviously they couldn't help me. And then I ended up having a severe OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. So I started to clean myself, washing my hands with hot water, and just everything around me had to be clean and organized, and that, I think, that led to burnout somehow. So in my high school years, I suffered from a lot of burnout, with this OCD, and a lot of turmoil. When I was about 13 or 14, I remember I got home in the afternoons, and I just started to cry. I would cry from 2 or 3 in the afternoon until 7 at night. And whenever my parents asked me what was wrong, I could never voice what was wrong. I just felt I had so much fear. I had so much anxiety. I was so I was tormented, basically. I didn't know it then, but I know it now. I was mentally tormented, but somewhere that subsided somewhere. And then I went to university. On university, my first year I was a very good student. I studied hard, but in my second year I made friends with some people, and they invited me to go out with them to the nightclubs, and I started going out to the nightclubs. And when I started going out to the nightclubs, I started to drink. In my second year, I was about 20 then, and I think like for so many people, alcohol became really like a crux for me, or something that I could depend on. So I used to just drink my nights away. Because you think that it will kill the pain, but it never really kills the pain. And I started to smoke. I started getting tattoos. I really started to rebel. One of the spirits I really struggled with was rebellion. I just wanted to do my own thing. I just never wanted to submit under anyone. I just was so independent, and obviously, that was not good. But so I started to drink a lot, and then in my second year, I fell in love with my best friend, a lady friend, and we had a relationship for 3 years. For 3 years, I was in a gay relationship, and I mean that I really I could see how everything that was orchestrated in my life, all the wounds and all the hurts and all the hatred and all the bitterness and unforgiveness just culminated into me deciding that, because obviously it's not an anomaly. I mean, I had such a growing up with my mom being so emotionally distant. I had such a craving, to just be loved by someone, and that drove me into the arms of a woman. So, and obviously I hated men because of my dad's abuse. So that it worked. It was the perfect storm in my life. All my hurts and everything that just culminated into me deciding that. Anyway, so in the beginning of my gay relationship, it was very exciting. I guess you can say it's like having an affair or whatever, because all the wounds in me got fed, or all my emotional needs got fed. But then after a while, it starts eating you up from the inside. And I remember that when I was 22 years old, I started again having nightmares, seeing demonic stuff, being tormented, and I really felt pulled apart. I felt how Satan was pulling me to this side, but a part of me wanted that, because a part of me, obviously, I wanted to embrace that, because through all of my woundedness and all of my hurts and pain, that sort of like, I know a guy that says that pain always seeks pleasure. So a lot of the pain inside of me wanted to seek for that pleasure in the dark kingdom. But then at the other hand, I also always, from when I was very small, I always felt God pulling me to Him, to His love, to His side. So so when I was 22, I started feeling these forces pulling stronger and stronger, and I had so much emotional or turmoil inside of me. I remember I would sit in bath looking at myself in the mirror, and I remember that I wanted to. I had this feeling where I just wanted to take my hands and just skin off my own face. I had so much self-hatred, self-rejection, turmoil. I would get up in the morning and I would cry and sit in the bath, and I would speak to God, and I would say to Him, look, I know this relationship is wrong, but I love the lady so much. And I just sat there and with so much turmoil, but then my life would just go on. I couldn't. It was like, I guess, somebody that wanted to, out of their own strength, stop smoking or stop drinking, whatever. I tried to stop, but I couldn't. It was just these forces started putting me apart. And then one day someone invited me to church, and I went to church, and under the worship, I remember I was worshiping God, and under the worship I heard this voice saying to me, I love you so much, when are you coming back to me? And then I thought to myself, well, it can't be Satan, because I was already in his kingdom at that time of my life. But then, and it couldn't have been my own voice, because I know that I hated myself at that point in time. So I realized maybe it is God, speaking to my heart. And then I kept on worshiping, and all of a sudden when I worshipped, I had this, I just knew, I just saw in the spirit how Jesus he came and he stood right in front of me, and he held out his hand like this, and I became aware of my surrounding. I was like the prodigal son sitting in, the den of pigs in the middle of the mud and the gunk, and Jesus came with his bare foot, and he stood right in front of me with his bare foot, and he held out his hand like this, and he said to me, "I love you so much, just trust me." And then that was the end of what I experienced. But then I realized that, I always felt I was so full of self-condemnation and shame, being in a gay relationship, and all of a sudden Jesus came, and he came so close to that, and he was holding out his hand. So then I knew that I was going to choose. I had to choose. I knew that by that time, as I told you, I was tormented again severely. I couldn't sleep at night, anxieties and fears. And I knew that I had to make a decision. I had to choose God, or I had to choose this part of the, I just had to choose. So I went to someone then that helped me. What happened was I went to somebody that prays for people that struggles with stuff in their life, and I came to her house. It was a lady called Timmy, and she opened the door for me, and when she opened the door, she said to me, "Hello, my sweetheart," and I started to cry. And she invited me into her house, and she said to me, "What's going on?" And I told her my life story. And I was expecting her to stone me, because that's what people do. When they find out stuff about your life and secrets and sin, they always judge and they always stone. So I was afraid of that. But what she did was she went and she sat right next to me, and she just held me and she comforted me. And while she was doing that, I said to her, "Didn't you hear what I said?" I'm so lost. I'm so full of shame and filthy, and that's how I felt. And she just held me and she said, "Don't worry, Jesus can help you." And what she did was she then started to walk with me, and she through prayer counseling, she started to show me that, or she prayed into certain things, and she said that I needed to forgive a lot of people. I needed to forgive my dad that abused me, and I needed to forgive all the men that sexually abused me. And when I did that, she helped me through the process. But when I did that, I literally could feel chains fall off me. So I went through, she prayed for me for healing in areas of my life, and she sort of walked with me for someone that doesn't know what it is. When you pray for people like that, God reveals to you what they struggle with, and then you can pray into that, and Jesus will often come and just bring healing, bring deliverance, and like he says, and set the captives free. So that's what happened to me. I went through these prayer sessions, and I really felt how the Lord just delivered me and healed me in many instances. And I gave my heart to the Lord on the 6th of June 2002, and my life changed forever. The Lord really set me free. He delivered me from many things. He healed me. And then what happened, I was still broken, and I was still full of hurt. So what I did was, for many days, I just went before the Lord, and I just started to pray in my room on the carpet, and I would just pray and cry out to the Lord. And then what happened was, the Lord just opened up the heavens for me. I started experiencing amazing things. I started seeing Jesus. Jesus came to visit me in my dreams. I would walk in town and just feel and experience the hurts of people, and I could see stuff that kept them in bondage, and just amazing stuff started happening to me. I started walking in open heaven. So I saw angels. When I started praying for people, I would see the Lord standing next to them, and many times when I prayed for people, Jesus would just start crying. And it was so weird in the beginning. When I pray for people, Jesus would just start crying. And then when I asked him, Lord, why are you crying? Then he would say to me, because this person that you are praying for is so full of hurt. They've built so many walls around their heart. They are so full of fear. And they don't trust me. And because of all the stuff in their life, they don't see me for who I really am. And they struggle to come near me. What the Lord just showed me then was, many times when we go through stuff in life, we start having a view of God that's like, we start seeing God through broken glasses and distorted glasses. And that's also what happened to me in my life. The way I saw my dad, I related to God the Father like that. And I saw God the Father as being a mean and always just mad or sad. I never saw God as a glad God. He's such a glad God. When he sees us, his heart gets so full of joy about us, about our lives. But I could never see God like that. I struggled to see God for what he was like. I always had this image of God being just like my dad. And I think looking back 20 years of my life, I think that's one of the most beautiful things that God blessed me with. Now I can really see him for who he is, and he's wonderful. He's such a wonderful Father. He's such a loving Father, and I really want people to get to know him like that.